Hi everyone, I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org, and in today's video I'm going to be making summer salad from my new cookbook, Planti-Reflux. Excuse me. Anyway, my new cookbook, Planti-Reflux, which is available still on Amazon for the introductory price of, I believe it's $5.67, or $4.67, something like that. It's really cheap. So today I'm going to be making the summer salad, which is a great crowd pleaser, and it's a great recipe for summertime. Let me find it here. It is an ebook. This cookbook is an ebook, which I just kind of started using ebooks in the last year or so. And if you don't have a Kindle, some people have messaged me saying you don't have a Kindle. I don't have I'm not going to be publishing it in an actual hardback or paperback book. It's just going to be an ebook. But you can, if you have a tablet or a laptop or a smartphone, you can upload the Kindle app to your phone. You don't have to have a Kindle in order to get an ebook. So, and if you're new to ebooks, they're fun. Try it out. I mean, I've gotten rid of most of my actual cookbooks. I've just saved some of my favorites. And I don't even use those. I've just saved them for whatever reason. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to be making the salad, and the tahini salad dressing that I make that goes with this is as here in the cookbook as well, and it's just tahini and water, sumac, cumin, and a little bit of Bragg's liquid aminos. And I'm just going to go ahead and whip that together first. The recipe calls for a quarter cup of the tahini and a quarter cup of water. I'm going to double that, so I'm going to do a half a cup of the tahini and a half a cup of water. I don't like to waste tahini because it's expensive. Get every last drop. All right, so you guys can adjust the spices on this, but it's got cumin in it. And it's got sumac, which is a commonly used Mediterranean spice that's a bit lemony. So normally when I make my tahini salad dressing, my usual recipe has it has lemon in it, it has vinegar in it, it has garlic in it, it has onions in it. So it's got all of the no-no ingredients for this challenge that we're doing, which eliminates common trigger foods. So this is kind of a safer version of the lemon tahini salad dressing. So this is just liquid aminos, which gives it its salty flavor. And we're going to blend that really quick. And it's going to be nice and creamy because of the tahini. All right, warning, loud blender. I'm going to add a touch more water. A little thick. Okay, let's put it. Put this right in here. And when you're making this dressing, any tahini salad dressing or when you're blending with tahini, you could whisk it up with a fork or with a whisk, but it just, I'm going to show you here in a second. When you blend tahini, it really kind of, it puffs up and it gets really thick and creamy. It's really a lovely consistency or texture. And if you love tahini, the flavor of tahini like I do. Now, when I first started cooking with tahini, I didn't see really what all the fuss was about, because people just love their tahini. I now love my tahini. I think it's really delicious. So it kind of had to grow on me. All right, so I'm going to show you this, just so you can kind of see how creamy that is. And tahini is a higher fat food, so if this may or may not be a trigger for you. You'll have to try it out and see if it's new. If it's something new for you, try it out and see. Okay, so we're going to throw together this salad, and it's not going to take hardly any time at all. I've already put on a pot of quinoa is going to be my grains. So this is a nice little salad that you can just eat by itself, or you can throw it on a bed of greens with some grains and then this dressing, or you can just eat the salad just as it is. So we're going to start with some baby sweet bell peppers, and I'm going to chop these up into nice small pieces. So give me a second to do that. And these did just come out of the freezer, so the, you know, when they come out of the freezer, they're great. They're just a little limp because they're not fresh. So they're really great for soups. They're not as great for a fresh salad like this. If I'd remembered to pick up a fresh pepper today, I would have done that, but I didn't remember. In fact, one of the ingredients for this salad is actually corn, and I'm out of corn, and I didn't realize I was out of corn. I made that corn chowder earlier, and I thought I had a bag of frozen corn in the freezer. The last couple times I've gone to Costco to get a bag of frozen corn, I like to buy the big because it's organic, big bag, because I do use a lot of corn. I love corn. I get the organic, and it's great for the corn chowder. It's great for this recipe and a couple of others that I do. So I like to have the big bag on hand in my freezer. But like I said, the last couple times I've gone to Costco, they've been out. So I'm cornless, which really stinks. I really like corn in this, but it'll still be really good. And I try to be flexible. I don't know about you guys, but I try to be really flexible. Certain things, like, I don't know, there's certain ingredients where I would have been like, oh, I'm out of avocado, well, maybe I'll run to the store, or maybe I'll just make something else. Like, there's certain ingredients that I just kind of have to have, but for certain recipes. But others, you know, I try to be flexible. So yeah, I'm using a serrated knife for this just because these are really kind of limp. And I don't have the world's best knives. Someday I'm going to splurge and buy a really expensive, nice set of knives. The ones we have, they're okay, but they're not the best. There's a lot better out there. All right, so we'll set that there. And what I'm going to be doing today is I'm just going to be throwing, I'm going to make this rather large because I really want to have, I'm really hungry, first of all. I worked out this morning, and then I went for a walk, a long walk, and I've hardly had anything to eat all day, which I know I tell you guys don't do that, don't starve yourself, but I've just been really busy. So I'm really hungry, but yeah, I'm going on a hike tomorrow, so I want to be able to pack a lunch, and I thought I would just make extra of this, and I can put it in I've got kind of a large travel container that I can put it in, and going with a friend of mine, and we'll have a little picnic at the end of our hike. So this will be good. This will be perfect for that. All right, so I'm going to put this whole zucchini in there. You could do the yellow zucchini, you could do the green zucchini. It doesn't really matter. Oh, I guess that wasn't the whole. I still have half to go here. Yeah, I don't know about where you live, but for these zucchinis, sometimes they're really expensive, and sometimes the green ones are cheap and the yellow ones are expensive. So I usually just, I don't know, I buy according to the price sometimes. If they're astronomical, then I just get the green ones. But I do like these yellow ones just because, I don't know, they add a little bit of brightness. Of course, if there was corn in here, that would add some brightness as well. All right, so I usually do with this particular, and you'll notice if you have the book, it calls for a can of black-eyed peas, which are also out. So I'm just going to throw a can of black beans in here. It's just as good. I don't know. I really like the little black-eyed peas. I've got kind of used to using those in this particular recipe, but. All right, so I've rinsed those. I'm just going to let them drain for a minute while I chop up this cilantro, which I've already rinsed. And I know not everybody likes cilantro. I happen to love cilantro, so I'm going to put a lot in here. My dad doesn't like it. I know some people say it tastes like dish soap. Do the balancing game here. All right. But I love it. Absolutely love it. And it's so good for you. This and like parsley, like flat leaf parsley is what I like, but any parsley, really, really good for you. They're supposed to be like, they cling to heavy metals in your body to detox heavy metals out of your body. So they're great to kind of just add, if you're doing like juices or smoothies and you want to add a little bit of these in to that sort of thing. It's supposed to be good. But I cook so many kind of Mexican type dishes that I tend to go through a lot of cilantro. We're going to put some carrots in there. And I love keeping these organic shredded carrots on hand. They're so handy. You can just throw them in there. I am actually going to kind of chop them up a little bit. Just a little bit. Woo. Got our beans. Stir. It's just going to be a really bright, lovely, and I'm not putting anything on this. So normally when I make this for myself, I do squeeze lemon juice on it, I put vinegar on it, and I put hot sauce in it. But for our purposes, for Planti-Reflux, this is the modification. And it's really, I mean, it's really bright and fresh and raw and wholesome just to eat just like this. Like this would be a great meal. You could eat this all on your own. But instead what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to eat about half of this, but I'm going to eat it with some grains and greens. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. I bought this today. I've never gotten this particular one before, but it's just baby spinach and kale, which is nice because it's good for my Three's Company smoothie. The kale and spinach is great for that. So we'll do a large handful of that. And I like to just, you know, you could do this whole. I'm partial to kind of just chopping everything up. So we'll do that. And then one of my favorite greens is cabbage. I like green cabbage. I also love purple cabbage or red cabbage. And I also love Napa cabbage. So if you guys don't cook very much with cabbage, like toss it into your salad or anything like that, try it. For some people who have sensitive tummies, they might not do very well with cabbage. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to put about half of that in there and save the rest for tomorrow. And I'm just going to kind of mix this up a little bit. So there's my plate of greens. And where's my avocado? Here's my avocado. All right, we're almost done. Really quick. This be like a really fast meal if you're hungry and want something fast. Of course, I already put my pot. I put these on earlier. My quinoa is already ready. I put on a pot of quinoa. All right, this is a beautiful avocado, and I'm just gonna score it. And I'm gonna put some quinoa on here. Quinoa is a really wonderful grain that a lot of people who are sensitive to grains, they do better. They do sometimes better with quinoa. It's actually not even a grain, it's a seed. And it's versatile. You can make a lot of dishes with it. I tend to just cook it just like this and eat it with some of these different dishes that I eat with greens and grains. All right, so we're gonna cover this. So normally, I'm just kind of plating this up so it's pretty. Normally I would put this in a big bowl like this, and then I can toss it and then just eat it right out of the bowl. So here's our avocado, and I think I'll cut that in half. And I'm gonna do the whole thing just like that. All right, here's what we've got so far. It's a nice big plate of food. And let's put our salad dressing on there. This is our tahini salad dressing. I'm just gonna kind of drizzle that over the top. And that's it. You see that? Ooh, smells good. All right. So give me 1 second just to somewhat clean this up, and then we'll chat. I've got a couple of questions from the group, this week's group, that I'm going to answer. Just give me 1 second. Good enough. Okay. Pull that up. All right, I've got the group here. A couple of questions I thought I would talk about today. The first one's from Kernal, and she says, hello, I have acid reflux, GERD, small hiatal hernia. 2 months ago, I was diagnosed with low iron, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit. The doctor prescribed me medication. Every time I take it, it hurts my stomach. She says she has burning in her stomach and constipation and bloating. Any suggestions, please, about iron medication? I have tried a few different kinds, but all of them are giving me burning in my stomach. Pam, I do your exercises and it helps me a lot in the morning. I'm so tired of this burning and uncomfortable feeling every day for the last few months. I wake up with a sour throat and burning in my stomach, and we'll talk about that as well. And sometimes a sour taste in my throat. Please help, any suggestions and advice. So, of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing my own experiences, what I've learned, what I know, what you can try. And I noticed there's a lot of conversation under this post with a variety of some different suggestions and things other people have done that have helped them. But I think it's important to talk about iron for those of us who are doing plant-based eating. Some people have the misconception that when you're on a plant-based diet, you have to be careful that you're at higher risk for low iron. And typically that's just not the case. You see people who suffer or struggle with low iron across the board. In fact, mostly in meat eaters, or however you want to say, people who eat, like a regular diet, suffer with low iron and have to take iron supplementation. So it's not like something that's specifically just people who are plant-based get it. And in fact, a lot of people find when they go plant-based that their iron issues go away. I've been anemic most of my life, and now when I have my blood work done, there's no issue. I'm right in that healthy, range. So Of course, that just because that was my experience doesn't mean it's going to be everybody's experience. But that's the first thing I would say is eating plant-based. You didn't mention if you're plant-based or not, Cornell, but um, it's something to really, it's important for people who are taking iron supplements or they have low iron to really have a good understanding the differences between heme and non-heme iron, and all of the wonderful sources of iron that can be found in so many different plant foods, some more so than others, and we're going to talk about that next. But if you're eating a variety and a bounty, plentiful, you're meeting your caloric needs on a plant-based diet, you're going to likely meet those iron needs as well. And of course, there are exceptions to that. And usually the exceptions would be, maybe you don't have enough stomach acid, or maybe you do have slowed digestion, or maybe for some reason you're not absorbing that iron. So we're going to talk about that. But that's the first thing I want to say is understanding how a plant-based diet can affect your heme or your iron, and understanding the differences between heme iron and non-heme iron, and how eating a variety and meeting caloric needs on a plant-based diet can easily meet those iron needs. So some of the foods on a plant-based diet that are rich in iron are greens. Greens are great. So my Threes Company smoothie that I do in the morning with all those greens first thing in the morning is excellent. Cashews are actually really good too. So instead of doing the walnuts or the Brazil nuts, you could do cashews and greens with your bananas and water, and that would be a great way to get iron in first thing in the morning. Now, I know you're asking about iron medication. I can't really, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really suggest certain medications, but I can say that one of the issues for people with low iron is not necessarily that they're not getting in enough iron, but their body for some reason isn't absorbing the iron that's coming in. And so understanding that and making sure you're getting in vitamin C, for example, beta carotene. These are vitamins that help your body absorb the iron in your food, right? So again, going back to that Threes Company, it's such a great way to start your day because it is rich in iron and it is rich in vitamin C because you have all those greens in there. So it's for somebody with low iron, it's a great way to start your day, getting in those greens every single day. And if you're not doing smoothies, I mean, it's such a great way to do it because you're putting so many greens into that blender. But like as you see today with this meal, I've got a handful of greens, so I'm getting in my greens that way. And of course, this is a vitamin C rich dish as well. Anything you eat like the carrots and the peppers and the zucchini, those are going to be beta carotene rich, which is going to help absorb that iron as well. So as you can kind of see, when you start to eat a variety and a bounty of plant foods, for some people that in itself can take care of the iron issue. Now, you mentioned closed out. So understanding that as far as medications go, I can't suggest those, but or even like supplements, I can't really suggest a particular brand or anything like that. You might want to supplement with a vitamin C, again, to help make sure your body is absorbing that. But again, if you're eating a variety and an abundance of plant foods, you should be getting in plenty of vitamin C. You should be. But you could take a supplement just to see if that helps, a vitamin C supplement. And so you also mentioned that you're trying different kinds and they're giving you a burning in your stomach. And so that can happen. And in fact, iron supplements are on the list. We haven't gone over that chapter yet, or maybe we did, I don't even remember, but they're on the list of the most common medications and supplements that have been known to show an increase of risk of reflux, right? So those iron medications are known to cause an upset of stomach and are known to cause an increase of reflux. So if it's at all possible, and I'm not telling you to ditch your supplements, you need to work with your doctor on that. And it sounds like you're under the care of a doctor, and that's great. But if they're giving you an upset stomach, it's important to maybe exhaust your alternatives and make sure there's something maybe that's more gentle, where you can meet your iron needs without upsetting your stomach. So that's important to keep in mind. And then also, you mentioned that you have you wake up in the morning with a sour throat, or maybe you meant sore throat, and I think you meant sore throat and a sour taste in your throat. either way, that sourness is, if you're having a sourness, it's reflux. It's when you're lying down at night, you're having that reflux. And so for whatever reason, whether it's your hernia, that lower esophageal sphincter is not clamping down tight in the night while you're sleeping. And so just a couple of things you can be aware of. One is what position are you sleeping in at night? So if you're curled up in a ball in the fetal position, that can push your stomach and your diaphragm towards each other, which can put pressure on that LES and cause it to not be able to clamp down nice and tight. Making sure that you finish eating well before you go to bed, like maybe your last meal of the day. And maybe, if you're going to bed at 9 o'clock, then maybe you should stop eating by 5 or 6, Give yourself 4 or 5 hours for that food to fully digest. But even then, you can still have reflux in the night. So you want to be, watching your position, how you sleep. It doesn't mean you can't sleep in the fetal position all night, but if you can, if you're rolling over or if you're waking up to use the bathroom, use that time to really stretch, like reach up over your head, or even while you're laying in bed, really elongate your body. Try to fall asleep laying on your back. If you roll over onto your side, that's fine. But if you at least give that a break to kind of move away and take that pressure off of your LES, that might help. And then continue to do everything you can to reverse your hiatal hernia, strengthen your diaphragm, which, guys, we're going to talk about that on Thursday. So today's Monday, Wednesday or Thursday. I don't have my schedule here, but we are going to be talking about hiatal hernia, and I'm going to be showing the exercises. But it's important to continue to do the exercises to keep your stomach down, but also to strengthen the diaphragm. So keep doing those daily breathing exercises to keep your diaphragm as healthy and as strong as possible. And then your LES, keeping it as healthy as possible, and that's comes down to what you eat and whether or not you're suffering with reflux. So those are all things to keep in mind. As far as the sour throat or the sore throat, we talked a little bit about that in that last video. Make sure that you give yourself a week, 2 weeks, or even a month long challenge of sipping alkaline water in between breakfast and lunch, and then again in between lunch and dinner. Get like a couple of 6-packs of alkaline water and just sip on that between meals, so that you are diminishing and getting rid of any pepsin that may be in your throat. So if you're waking up in the morning and you've got a sore throat, it could be that you've got pepsin in your throat and you're having a little bit of a reflux, and that's triggering that pepsin. There might be no pepsin there, and it just might be, acid is rising all the way up and kind of pooling in your esophagus and causing that as well. So it could be a variety of different things, but those are some different things that you can try. The other thing that you mentioned was bloating, and someone else had a question about bloating as well. Christina had a question about bloating, and she was saying, what's been your best help or relief with bloating? Gluten-free, grain-free. She says, I'm already vegan, so no meat or dairy. I started taking a probiotic again today, and I made a green smoothie this morning. Pam, I purchased your book as well. So yeah, when it comes to bloating can occur for a variety of reasons, and it is really important to kind of get a handle on it, figure out what's causing your bloating and address it, especially if you have reflux, because that bloating can put a lot of pressure on your valve and cause the reflux. So if you're constantly and continually having bloating, you need to keep a food journal, see if there's maybe certain foods that you're sensitive to, but also just have an understanding of some of the reasons why we bloat. Like, we can bloat because we have slowed digestion, and so if we maybe boost our stomach acid, that may take care of the bloating problem. We can also bloat because we have a dysbiosis in the bacteria in the gut, that all important microbiome. And so if you don't have the right bacteria in there to be able to really start to break down the foods that you're eating, that can cause bloating as well. So then making sure you do have diverse gut microbiome is going to, take care of the bloating in that case. It might be one, it might be other, it might be both, it might be something else. But as far as those two go, one is you can supplement with acid. You can take hydrochloric acid. You can, work with your doctor on this, work with your naturopath, or really do, your due diligence before you start experimenting with it. Some people take it and it makes their symptoms worse. Other people take it and it completely clears up their bloating and their reflux and all of their abdominal issues. They just needed more stomach acid. So if you're already taking a proton pump inhibitor, then this is why it's important. If you're going to take hydrochloric acid, really to work with your doctors, because there might be some things that are pertain to you that I don't address here, but your doctor is going to know about. For example, if you're already taking a proton pump inhibitor, there's no point in taking hydrochloric acid because the two defeat each other. If you have a stomach ulcer or even suspect you have a stomach ulcer, you shouldn't be supplementing with hydrochloric acid because it's just going to exacerbate the ulcer and make it worse. So you need to understand these things. But yeah, a lot of people, you can go, when I say a lot of people, I hate that phrase, but you can go over to Amazon and bring up some of these products and read through the reviews and see what people are saying. I know that people in some of the different groups that I've managed and in a lot of the different groups that I belong to, hydrochloric acid gets brought up a lot and people do find relief with it. I experimented with it myself long ago and it did help with my bloating. I couldn't believe the difference that I felt. And this is before I really got a handle on really healing my gut through plant-based nutrition. But I did a course of it for 1 month and it really, it got to the point where I didn't even need it anymore. It really boosted my body's own production of stomach acid, which is, I believe, is what I needed. It's one of the things that I needed. And when I say one of the things, that's important to understand because sometimes when it comes to healing our gut and overcoming these conditions, there's really like a comprehensive kind of attack or therapies that come together to really create the ideal healing environment for your body. So, you know, you might just switch to a plant-based diet and that might do the trick for you. For somebody else, you might need to be able to you might have to incorporate some of these other things as well to really create that holistic or comprehensive treatment. So it's going to be different for everybody. So yeah, when it comes to bloating, you mentioned that you started taking a probiotic, and I think that's great. Again, sometimes people take a probiotic and it takes care of the problem. Others, you know, it might make them feel worse. So you just have some of these things, you know, you don't know unless you try. That's the only way you're going to find out. And so, yeah, so probiotics would be great. And I mentioned the gut dysbiosis and not having the right bacteria. A probiotic, that's the reason for the probiotic. It's going to reintroduce some of those healthy bacteria so that, again, so you don't have slow digestion, so you don't have food sitting around really slowly, you know, waiting for the right bacteria to break it down, waiting for the good strong stomach acid to break it down, waiting for those enzymes to break it down. You don't want your food just sitting. You want digestion moving. And when it just sits, that's usually when we start to have bloating and cramping and pain and so forth. So yeah, probiotic is a great thing to try. That may or may not help. Another thing is probiotic-rich foods, and that includes fermented foods. But for our purposes in this group, we avoid fermented foods because they're typically higher in acidity, right? So especially if you have LPR, you want to avoid fermented foods. But if you don't have the LPR, you might want to experiment with fermented foods and see if that helps with the bloating, because that's going to reintroduce more healthy bacteria, just like the probiotic would, so that you are diversifying your gut microbiome and having less bloating. Two ways that you can do that are fairly safe or safer than something like kimchi or sauerkraut in the Planti-Reflux challenge would be plain yogurt or water kefir. And so plain yogurt you can buy at the store. You just want to make sure it's a plant-based yogurt, and you just want to the way these probiotic-rich foods work is through consistency. So you don't want to just eat like a whole yogurt today and then have a whole yogurt 5 days from now. You want to have a couple of bites of that yogurt every morning, right? You want to have that consistency where you're reintroducing probiotics. They're finding more and more that they don't necessarily go in and just recolonize the gut. That's the goal. And over the long term, in a very healthy individual, that does sometimes happen. But what usually happens is the probiotics work on their way through. They don't have an easy time of kind of recolonizing and repopulating, even though you're taking a probiotic or eating probiotic-rich foods. If you're on a plant-based diet, that's really going to help because plants are prebiotics, and it's going to really feed those new bacteria that you're introducing. So yeah, going back to the yogurt, you want to take a couple of bites every day because they do, most commonly, they do their work going through. All right, so So plain yogurt, a couple of bites. If you don't like the plain yogurt, it's just a couple of bites and it's like medicine. Plug your nose if you have to. Or sweeten it. Put some chopped bananas in there. Put some chopped, nectarines in there. I wouldn't sweeten it with honey or sugar or anything like that. Just put, smash up some fruit in there and just get a couple of bites in every day. A really great way, because yogurt is expensive, especially the plant-based stuff, is to make it yourself. You can buy something like this, like a soy milk powder. If you've got an Instant Pot, there's an actual yogurt setting on the Instant Pot. You can fill your little jars, put them in there, walk away, put it on the yogurt setting, walk away, let it do it. It's really simple stuff. And the same thing with the water kefir. I've got a batch going here. You have to buy these little grains, these kefir grains. And I'll do a video on this if you guys want me to, just let me know. But you put your grains in a jar like this, you fill it with filtered water, you put in a couple teaspoons of sugar, and you just let it ferment. These grains ferment the sugar, and then when it's done, it's not sweet, it's kind of sour. And it is somewhat acidic, but not highly acidic. So again, if you've got LPR, you probably want to avoid this and stick with the yogurt. But if you don't have any issues with your throat, for those of you that don't have any issues with your throat, you have more issues with the stomach, this may be the thing for you. This may be the thing for you. So I know my mom got me started on this, and I love it. I love experimenting with it because I don't drink it just like this. When this is done fermenting, I then flavor it with a variety of different things, and I experiment with all kinds of things. But what I'm really finding, what I'm really loving, is just buying like these organic juices and all the different blends and flavors that they come in, like mango orange or cranberry blueberry or whatever. And then just when this is done, I always leave a little bit of space at the top, and then when this is done, you strain it off, and then you start a new batch with the grains, and then you've got your beverage. And then I top it off with a little bit of that flavored juice. And that's just a nice way to have a cool, probiotic rich beverage always in the refrigerator, ready to go. And I just try to drink a little bit every day, just like a cup every day. And between that and water, that's pretty much what I drink. So those are a couple of things you can try between the yogurt and the water kefir. And the grains, I order mine online, but you might be able to get them at a local health food store wherever you live. But they're not very expensive, and they last as long as you keep your batch going. They last. Last year I had a batch that I used for an entire year, and I ended up dumping them out and buying new ones and starting over, just because I don't know. I just felt like I should. You don't have to though. As long as they're still fermenting your sugar, then they're still active and they're still alive and they're still working. So, all right. I don't see any questions today, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.